So our next speaker is Craig Bradford. Hey, Craig. He's the President and Board of Directors and Trustees of the Big Rock Community Service District, Big Rock Community Service District Storage Tank Stabilization Project. He will share with us today. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you very much for inviting us to show what we've done. I was asked to come here on behalf of basically what Marilyn Seward was just talking about, and that is a little community that was out of airspeed and ideas. And that was not all that long ago. In 2005, we were faced with, it's kind of like there's never been a football team of one person that's been able to hike its ball to itself and then run through a pack of 11 defenders all trying to rip your head off. Never had a touchdown from one of those scenarios. And so I was asked to come here with Marilyn and Steve Payne to talk about us as the recipients of all your generosity and everything you do in this world. It actually can be amazing if it's done right. I'd like to walk you through some of that. I've been with the Big Rock Community Services District for 9 years. And we have an interesting little township, if you will. We're way up in the nowheresville of Del Norte County on Highway 199. Now, we have, as I go through this, please take notes if you want to ask us questions, maybe over the lunchtime. And Rebecca Crow, our engineer, is here today. Rebecca, would you wave your hand wherever you are? There you are, right in the back. So together, we can get you through some of the technicalities. Slide, please. Our place of use is basically located on the pristine Smith River. And we're about 10 miles up Highway 199 from Crescent City. And we're the only thoroughfare that links Del Norte County to the Oregon interior, meaning Grants Pass, Medford, and Ashland. It's a resort retirement community bracketed by the Jedediah Smith Redwood State Park, and the Smith River National Recreation Area, the Redwoods National Park, and the Smith River itself. And from my house, I can see every one of those features. 3 years ago, we annexed the Jedediah Smith Redwoods State Park and the Redwoods National Park into the Big Rock Community Services District's jurisdiction. You ever heard of that before? It wasn't easy. We doubled our size in that endeavor twice over. Basically, we occupy maybe 2 sections of land. In case you're wondering, we probably should have been named the Hyuchi Community Services District a few years ago when it was created back in 1966. But somebody named it for a big giant rock right in the center of town, which you'll never see because it's covered with trees. So it's very confusing when we talk about Big Rock. Just understand that it takes care of the governance responsibilities for the township of Hyuchi. Our population in the winter season is about 650, and we really move it up, I'd say from April all the way through late October to about maybe 2,300. It's a fluctuating population base and with different demands based on the cultures that come to visit us. Now, although the special district was granted about the same, it's the same kind of constitutional powers as a regular municipality. I should mention that we are not a water district, a special purpose district. We are a special district. We have powers for fire prevention, fire protection, suppression, street lighting, collection and treatment of sewage, garbage collection, police protection, public recreation facilities, and even mosquito abatement. But because of our small size, we do not have the revenue stream to be able to support those public services. So we focus on providing drinking water and treating it. Now, each of the elected members of our board of directors serves a 4-year term, and we depend upon a great deal of volunteerism. In addition to our general manager, 3 of our board members, oddly enough, are certified distribution and treatment operators, and we undertook that because we needed to give our general manager time to go to the fair, to go on vacation, to get sick, or whatever he needed to do. And oh, by the way, the law does say you have to have 2 water distribution operators, a primary and a standby shift operator. And if you don't, you're violating the law. So we undertook that on a voluntary basis, and actually it was kind of fun. The wonderful thing about Hyuchi is that despite broad ranges in partisan, religious, and ideological differences of everybody in town, we all pull off the same sheet of paper. Everybody does everything together, and we don't complain. We have Marilyn Seward's great attitude. Slide, please. Every customer we have in Hyuchi is connected to a water meter. The main pump house uses 3 master meters and 1 concrete vault, 1 vehicle. Since 2005, where we had nothing, we put in a SCADA water management system, 2 large emergency generators, and a propane tank field that would enable us to operate off the grid for several months with water conservation measures. In addition, we recently built a new water treatment facility, 2 pump houses, 2 separate redwood water storage tanks were put in 1971. One is the problematic one that I'll be addressing here in just a moment. And we are able to provide basically 150,000 gallons of water storage. We pull water from 2 submersible water pumps below the bottom of the Smith River in what might be considered maybe a second aquifer, although that hasn't been defined. The beauty of that is it's a pure granite riverine system. I think we're probably the only river around that doesn't have any appreciable mud in it. So if you take all those little marbles, in the wintertime, they roll around, they resituate. And the sand and the gravel becomes a natural filtration system that we don't have to backwash. It backwashes itself. So we start with that, and then we work up with a little bit of sodium hypochlorite, which is basically gone, as we all know, in maybe 30 minutes, and you can't smell it. We keep just a small residual of 0.2 to 0.5 that nobody can smell or taste, and it is sweet to the taste. It's beautiful water. Next slide, please. R15 wet cell fire hydrants covering the entire community. I won't go into all the details about that, but it's our pride and joy, because when you drive through Hyuchi, that's what you see as a passer through. Each one is painted according to basically guidelines as to their flow capacity. We annually keep them greased flushed and wrapped with reflective colors and chains. Now, why do you care about that? Well, let me show you. They're like little critters that we take special pride in. It's a sign of our community. Next slide, please. Our diversion limit is a little over 40 million gallons a year. If we violate that, either the annual limit or a monthly limit. As some of you know, you can be fined up to $500 a day. When you have a reserve, a financial reserve, that you need to keep for emergencies, for red buttons, you need to have a lot of money in a place where the infrastructure is aging at 42 years. So we have a little over $200,000. We cannot afford $500 a day in fines. So what we did is we took a rude step, considered by some. We can pass laws, we can pass ordinances there, and we passed a water theft ordinance. If anybody wants to have the verbiage for one of those, please, you have my email address, I think, from the bio, and just give me a toot, and then I'll send you one. That invades sometimes the first responders' empires, and if they've been taking your water forever and moving it to other places, or good old boys in their 2,000-gallon tankers come in and pull off of your hydrants in the middle of the night, and then go to a campaign fire somewhere 90 miles away and sell it for commercial gain, that's the wrong answer. We have now an ordinance that keeps them from doing that. You might consider that. A lot of those folks don't know what water hammer means. It means a lot to us. Slide, please. This is what it looks like in the summertime, but if you have fished our river in the wintertime, it goes canyon wall to canyon wall. Beautiful place. Next slide. Now, here's the problem. The Big Rock Community Services District 100,000-gallon redwood tank was built in 1971 on a steep hillside. It has a gradient of between 50 and 70%. Hard to walk on, much less build on. The runoff from above has eroded the tank's foundation, increasing the probability that the gravel fill prism under the tank will fail during a 5.5 or greater magnitude earthquake and a wet winter. Every year, the erosion gets worse. If one uses historical trends for predictions, we are due for this kind of scenario. A massive landslide would follow, destroying the township's water system entirely, and including destroying 19 homes in Hyuchi, and portions of U.S. Highway 199, the only evacuation route to the northeast. You know that we use our evacuation route oftentimes with tsunamis and the wildfires that we have there. We're right in the center of Wildfireville, and so this is an important roadway. The damage would include significant loss of human life, depending upon the time of day, and disruption of water service to customers throughout the entire township and those two parks that I mentioned. It would shut everything down. The catastrophic debris front could reach all the way to the Smith River in minutes. As the debris front moves downhill, the hill actually steepens, and it picks up in volume, and it picks up in speed. And it would ultimately hit the river, deposit a huge sediment fill and debris load into the river, and that starts a second problem downriver. Not to mention destroying lots of salmonid habitat. Next slide. You can see the erosion up behind our general manager's right shoulder. It gets worse. Next slide. I do have a laser pointer, but I'm sorry, I don't know. Oh, there we go. There it was. I know I've got 1 minute left. There is the 100,000-gallon tank. That is where the initial damage would occur, and in really, literally minutes. Trees, big rocks. This whole mountain here is pure granite. It has maybe 5 to 8 feet of topsoil on top of it. And you fill that full of water, and you give it an earthquake to shake it loose, and it's just like grease flowing off of a hot pan. As it goes down through this area, it takes all these homes out, hits the highway, destroys that, and then moves right down into here, into our water intake facilities and dams the river. All of this area enclosed in the yellow is the township of Hyuchi. The parks that I mentioned are over in this area. Next slide, please. Here's our scope of work. It speaks for itself. And a solution. Next slide, please. If I had more time, I would articulate this in more detail, but I think it kind of gets you to where you need to go. $1.5 million, everybody. Now, where am I going to find that? Any ideas? Next slide. As Marilyn said, we do not have the ability to make things right because we're small. We're also in an economically disadvantaged area. We can't get there from here. All of the improvements that I talked about, we've done with smaller grants, FEMA grants, small county grants. But we don't have the money in our county for something like this. So we go to FEMA, CalEMA, California Department of Public Health, West Coast Watershed, RWRN, the Redwood Water Resource Network that we formed between Del Norte and Humboldt counties so that we could get, one, we could get more political whack to get our grants that we need, and two, that we could get free training from those beautiful guys in the back who come up with the expense reimbursement grant that went away and hope comes back. We can bring our operators down and get free training. We can't afford to send them anywhere else. We need those contact hours for recertification. I must mention that the State Water Resources Control Board, 2 years ago, without our solicitation, offered us a license to operate in perpetuity. All of the other straws on the river, that's Gasky, Smith River, the City of Crescent City, and all other users have to operate on permits that have to be annually justified. So the Water Resources Control Board has really been there for us, as well as some others I'd just like to take a moment to mention. First of all, Catherine Gledhill, there you are. This wonderful lady at West Coast Watershed has really been a saint in helping us out. Jen, working at the county, at Humboldt. The Rural Communities Assistance Corporation in the back. John Hamner, a blessing for all of us here. Brian, I can't thank all of you enough for being able to step forward and coming to see us. All of us at our level, all we have to do now is ring a bell and everybody comes to help. You cannot do this alone. Thank you very much for this partnership that has come together. Thank you very much for what you do in our lives. We really, truly, genuinely appreciate it.